was in search of suppressed technology, you know, laughingly referred to as UFO technology. I think it's the biggest kept secret in the world because of its comic value. There are UFOs, they are alien. We're using anti-gravity and reverse engineered technology that came from captured UFO craft.
We're using anti-gravity?
Yeah. But it's a very important thing. We've got old age pensioners can't pay their fuel bills. We've got countries being invaded to get award oil contracts to the West. And meanwhile, secretive parts of the secret government are sitting on suppressed technology for free energy.
So how did you go about trying to find the stuff that you were looking for in NASA, in the Department of Defense?
Well, I assumed that although it's part of a secret government project, there must be military ties. I'd read 400 expert witness testimonies, ranging from civilian air traffic controllers through military radar operators, all the way up to guys that were in charge of whether or not to launch missiles. So some very credible people. All of these people had said that there are UFOs, they are alien. We're using anti-gravity and reverse engineered technology that came from captured UFO craft.
We're using anti-gravity?
Yeah.
Who's using anti-gravity?
Secret compartmented parts of the government. And I think we're being trickle-fed by the various defence contractors, so that I predict within the next 7 years we will have anti-gravity as a publicly usable phenomena.
Okay, so how did you go about hacking into the computers to find what you were looking for?
Well, unlike the press would have you believe, it wasn't very clever. I searched for blank passwords. I wrote a tiny Perl script, the Perl language, that tied together other people's programs that searched for blank passwords, so you could scan 65,000 machines in just over 8 minutes.
So you went and actually accessed 65,000 machines sitting on, I guess, 65,000 desks in different buildings?
No, because all 65,000 aren't necessarily live yet. You might find typically 5,000 might be live. And out of that, 500 might be Windows machines, then 50 might have blank administrator passwords, which is a pretty bad ratio for the world's largest military.
So you're saying that you found computers which had a high-ranking status, administrator status,
yep,
which hadn't had their passwords set, they were still set to default?
Yeah, precisely. And in some cases it was thousands of machines, because they had an image. Rather than install Windows off a CD at every machine, you blat it onto an image, stick the image in all the machines, and every single machine has a blank local administrator password. So.
And you actually eventually took control of one particular machine on a desk somewhere in NASA, is that right?
Well, I mean, I had control of every machine that had a blank administrator password, because the door was open. So.
And what did you use that to do?
I was searching for files and evidence in relation to the UFO question.
Okay. Were you the only hacker to make it in, past the slightly lower than expected lines of defence?
Yeah, exactly. There were no lines of defence. There was a permanent tendency of foreign hackers. You could run a command when you're on the machine that showed connections from all over the world. Check the IP address to see if it was another military base or whatever, and it wasn't. The General Accounting Office in America has again published another damning report saying that federal security is very, very poor.
So let's get this straight. While you were on a machine inside one of these computers in the Department of Defense, say, there were other hackers logged onto that machine as well,
yeah,
from around the world?
Yeah, you run your netstack command and you see the list, Turkey, Germany, Holland, everywhere.
Are they all being prosecuted?
No, because they weren't caught. I'm assuming. I mean, they could have turned out later on to be someone else that's been caught, but not as far as I know. I think that probably, because the security was so poor, it's probably foreign governments.
How many times did you go back into this computer within NASA and the Department of Defense? Was it a one-time only?
No, I mean, most computers, because I maintained a quiet presence and, I wasn't running around causing, abundant damage, as is claimed. I was back on most computers. For as long as it took for me to find out if there was any information on there which would be useful to my
So how many
research.
times do you think you went? Over what kind of period were you hacking into these computers? Was it a one-time only? Was it for the course of a week?
A couple of years.
And you went unnoticed for a couple of years?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What if I was, say, a NASA employee and I was walking past the computer that you were connected to? What would I have seen on the screen? Would there be any clues to anyone that was there?
Absolutely.
That you were there?
Yeah, I was using something a bit like PC Anywhere, called Remotely Anywhere, so I could actually see the desktop of the machine I had control of. And if you were walking past there, you would see the mouse move and me, doing whatever I was doing on that desktop.
Why weren't you spotted then?
I was eventually, and it was at NASA I was spotted. I even saw the chap's or woman's mouse cursor come down, right-click the local area network icon and choose disconnect. And that was me.
So someone basically took the mouse off you, if you like, and
in a way,
cut the
yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
Why did it take 2 years before they caught you?
Because I used to be careful about the hours.
So you would log on in the middle of the night, say?
Yeah, you had to always be juggling like different time zones and stuff. And yeah, you'd be doing it at night time, so hopefully there's not many people around. But there was one occasion where a network engineer saw me and actually questioned me, and we actually talked to each other via WordPad, which was quite strange. That was very, very strange.
What did he say? What did you say?
Well, he said, "What are you doing?" Which was a bit, shocking. And I told him I was from military computer security, which he fully believed. And we had a little chat, and he tried to impress me with his virus knowledge and going into a DOS box, a console and stuff. And that was quite strange, talking to someone who's in charge of the place where you shouldn't be, and then not realising that you shouldn't have been there.
And I guess that scared you enough to stop you doing it?
No.
Why?
Because I felt like this free energy technology that I was after should be publicly available. I wasn't doing any damage. I was snooping around. I wasn't making their security poorer because the administrator password was already blank, so the door was already open. The only thing I was doing was installing my remote control program, which is commercially off-the-shelf available software, so it shouldn't be a problem either.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
There's a group called the Disclosure Project. They published a book which had 400 expert witnesses ranging from civilian air traffic controllers through military radar operators right up to the chaps that are responsible as to whether or not to launch missiles. So some very credible, very relied upon people, all saying that yes, there's UFO technology, there's anti-gravity, there's free energy, and it is extraterrestrial in origin, and we've captured spacecraft and reverse engineered it. And these are, very solid, reliable chaps in charge of launching missiles. So,
what did you find inside NASA?
One of these people was a NASA photographic expert, and she said that in Building 8 at Johnson Space Centre, they regularly airbrushed out images of UFOs from the high-res satellite imagery. And using the same blank password hunting technique, I got down to Building 8, got a few blank passwording machines there, and what she said was there. There was folders called filtered and unfiltered, or processed and raw, or something like that. I got one picture out of the folder, bearing in mind this is a 56k dial-up.
So a very slow internet connection.
Oh, crikey, yeah, dial-up. A 235 megabyte picture, and if you're talking 5 minutes a megabyte, obviously impossible to download. Also in a NASA proprietary image format, not a GIF or a JPEG or anything. So using the remote control program, I turned the colour down to 4-bit colour, the screen resolution really, really low, and even then this picture was still, juddering and coming onto the screen. But what came onto the screen was amazing. It was a culmination of all my efforts. It was a picture of something that definitely wasn't man-made. It was above the Earth's hemisphere. It was kind of looked like a satellite. It was cigar-shaped. It had geodesic domes above, below, to the left, to the right, and both ends of. And although it was a low-resolution picture, it was very close up. This thing was hanging in space. The Earth's hemisphere was visible below it. And no rivets, no seams, none of the stuff associated with normal man-made manufacturing.
But I'd scan and look for documents, etc., and I found an Excel spreadsheet that was actually called, or at least in the heading of the column, it said non-terrestrial officers. And I was like, my bloody God, that's just
non-terrestrial officers.
Non-terrestrial officers, with ranks and names, and then a separate sheet with tabs for material transfer between ships. And these were, I don't remember the names now. It's a long time ago. A lot of people give me a hard time for not remembering the names and stuff, but it was a long time ago.
Right.
But non-terrestrial officers thought, well, it must be, let's try and cut out all the possible conventional explanations first. I searched for that term. It was nowhere. It was nowhere at all. Now, if you search for the term, you only find links to me and stuff that I've said.
Right, I see.
So it wasn't a standard thing in the military at all.
Right.
So I took that to be, they must have a secret space-based...
So the non-terrestrial officers, what, it couldn't be astronauts?
It could be. That's the thing, it's up to you how you interpret that, isn't it?
Right.
But these ships were called USS whatever and USS whatever.
So they started with USS?
Yeah, so that That implies Navy, and I think the Navy do a lot of space stuff,
Right.
the US Navy.
And how many officers' names would you estimate were listed, and how many ships were listed?
Probably, oh God. I think there's probably one screen full of officers' names, so what's that, 25 rows
Right,
on an Excel
okay.
spreadsheet? And these were low resolution days as well, so you're talking
Yeah.
about 800 by 600 screens, not very big. But the ships was probably, I don't know, a third.
The Portland FBI office warning that hackers could take over your unsecured TVs, cyber stalk you, even use it as a gateway for them to come into your home.
Much of that information is just as vulnerable as anything on your phone, and if it has your TV has a weak or non-existent password, all of that information is accessible by cyber attackers.
Hacker warns you to check your TV immediately. A clear sign that something dangerous may already be lurking in your living room.
If you just bought a smart TV this Black Friday or Cyber Monday, the FBI is also issuing a warning over those devices. Last week, the FBI posted about the risks of having a smart TV on its website. The agency says the devices can be gateways for hackers to access your home and other devices because they are connected to the internet. That means hackers can take control of your unsecured TV and play with its settings, and in some cases, take control of your TV's camera and microphone to watch and listen in on you. So really scary stuff when it comes to these smart TVs.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Vlad. The last time I bought a phone that was a non-smartphone, it's a long time ago.
Yes.
Same thing with your television. And just like we have to lock our phones down and our home computers down, now we have to lock down all of these smart devices in our living rooms, including our televisions. The smart TV has a bunch of really smart and very useful data on it. It also means that this data is pretty valuable, not just to device makers, but to hackers.
This isn't just a minor flaw. It's a glaring weakness in your TV's security that hackers can easily exploit.
So that device is probably secured with a really insecure default password. Often this is 12345, or it is admin, something that is really easy to change. And that means that hackers kind of already know the best devices in their hacker forums. They're able to talk about the best devices to hack and the best methods of hacking these devices.
So should people, I'll never forget, a couple of years ago, I saw a picture of Mark Zuckerberg doing an interview, and it was a still photograph, and he was in his office, and he had a laptop, and he had a little piece of tape over the camera of the laptop. Is that one way that people can protect themselves, by sort of blocking the cameras, the camera aperture on their smart TVs?
Well, if your smart TV has a camera on it, or like the new Facebook Portal, which is a TV-like device, it's a smart screen with a camera on the front of it. Many of the Alexa devices sold by Amazon also have cameras on the front of those. So whether it's a TV or just a device with a screen, yeah, you want to make sure that that little slider is covering the camera, and that the microphones are also physically covered. Now, the new Alexa devices sold by Amazon have what they call privacy protections built in. You want to make sure that you are covering your device camera with tape yourself, and that you're covering those microphone holes. If you want this to be truly offline, also make sure you unplug it.
Your smart TV might be more than a device. It could be a digital spy watching your every move.
Okay, there are also reports that smart TVs themselves are watching what you do and reporting the data back to the company that made the devices. So what kind of information are they using?
Well, just think about your phone and all of the important information that's available on your phone created by applications. So on your smart TV, there might be Netflix, there might be YouTube, and all of these applications, just like the apps on your phone, they talk to not just the device maker back home, but they talk to each other, and they send information between each other. So much of that information is just as vulnerable as anything on your phone, and if it has your TV has a weak or non-existent password, all of that information is accessible by cyber attackers.
So conceivably, what could they be using this data for?
Well, for the same data, the same reason you might want to siphon information off of your phone, that's pretty useful not just to hackers but to big data companies. However, what's really interesting is this new practice called cookie syncing. That is when I have a cookie that's a little piece of data on my computer or my phone that identifies my browser and what I'm doing on that phone or with the applications. I can then sign into accounts. Those accounts I'm also signed into on my television, and it lets me, or it lets device makers sync the information between my TV, my phone, and my computer, so you can have a pretty good idea of who someone is and their habits.
The real danger is that the companies selling these smart TVs provide little transparency about security vulnerabilities, leaving you completely in the dark while your privacy is at risk.
How transparent are companies when it comes to this kind of stuff? Because I know that the Vizio was fined a couple of years ago, and subsequently they had to become more transparent. Is that the case now?
So Vizio and a few other device makers would just perpetually connect to your Wi-Fi connection and then send data back home, even if you had told them not to. However, California's new data protection regulation goes into effect January 2020. That is less than 1 month from right now, and that means all of these companies, this is kind of a de facto regulation for the rest of the United States, so all of these companies will have to be a lot less opaque and a little more transparent about how they use your data and where that data is going.
FBI has issued a warning that smart TVs with built-in cameras could actually be spying on you. The Portland FBI office warning that hackers could take over your unsecured TVs, cyber stalk you, even use it as a gateway for them to come into your home.
It is a realistic problem. So here's the deal, David, is we've got our existing TVs that are out there, and what happens is software gets updated to the TV sets that may reset your privacy controls, because what you want is to just know how much of your own privacy you want to share. So you want to be able to taper that down to what you're comfortable with, or turn it off altogether.
What you think is just a screen on the wall might actually be a doorway for someone to step into your private life.
And then you have the hacker side of it all, which is, how can someone get into my TV and snoop on me? That's a relatively easy thing, especially when you start adding in, say, a Roku stick or another device that each one of those opens up access to it. So I think the really good idea is, every time you change your smoke detector batteries, you want to take a look at your TV settings, and go back to that initial setup and just set, it's a pain in the rear end, but I got to tell you, it's worth it, because you better believe that they have the power to snoop through your TV. Not many TVs have webcams at this point. In fact, like the last couple hundred TVs I've looked at have no camera, but they all have microphone or listening devices.
And of course, you have the proliferation of audio devices, whether it's Google Assist or Alexa, and the voice activation that appliances are now going to have, particularly with 5G. I guess the only question, Kurt, is there has to be some awareness on the part of everybody that these devices do go two ways, right? Meaning anything that can listen to you, that can take your orders, can listen to you for reasons that you don't want them listening to you. And I guess it's more being aware of the fact that we're living in an increasingly porous, invasive world, and not one that's purely going in one direction, right?
I think you're right, Zach. I think we're at that point where we've got the education. We now know that all of these smart devices will snoop on us if we give them the right to do so. And some do it without our permission. So now we get to the point of saying, okay, what's my plan to address that? And my answer to that is, ever so often, simply go on, know how to do that controlling initial setup on your TV. Most times it's as straightforward as hitting settings, and then whatever that initial setup is. And then, take a look at those settings every 6 months and say, have they changed that? Because oftentimes makers of TVs, in the name of privacy, will update their software, giving us greater control of privacy, but in the same token, it may open the floodgates of that information until we go back and make those setting changes again.
Let's say I go to Best Buy and I buy a new, big flat panel TV. Can I have the people at Best Buy disable the camera or whatever it is that allows the? If not, I would think there'd be a cottage industry for that kind of thing. Is to take away the opportunity for the government to spy on your living room.
Well, remember the Geek Squad? So Best Buy has those kind of services, but I don't think consumers are willing to pay for that. But as part of an installation, if you do spend the money, #1 time of year is sporting events like Super Bowl for TV sales. only to be followed by this moment in the year.
Yeah.
The holiday period is a huge time for TV purchases. So if you can get them to just tell you how to do it, it really isn't that complicated. I would love to have my own technology valet, though, at home.
But the story is just get it done, right? I mean, is this any worse than what's happening with Siri and Alexa and all these other things? I mean, aren't we just being spied on constantly, really?
Yeah, but is that okay? It's not.
Well, but it's happening. I mean,
it's happening, and you have a millennial that'll say, "Oh, I don't care."
Yeah.
You don't care until some money's missing from your bank
well,
account.
no, that's true.
Or, it's the after effect of that. So, yeah, we should care, and it is not necessarily any different than everything else that's coming at us, and we got to be aware of it.